The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Was that subject Harvey Adelson?
It was, yes. But this is just one incoming phone call from that 786 number. And again, that was on July 1st of 2014 at 5:20 p.m.
Who did the 786 number belong to?
So the 786 number belonged to Sigfredo Garcia.
You're making a mistake. No mistake. It's two mistakes.
How about Harvey? Is he next? We're talking about the evidence against Donna Adelson's husband. Plus, the University of Kentucky cheerleader who allegedly hid her dead baby in a closet competed months before she was charged. We'll show you the stunt video that's swirling around online. And I gave him to God. That's what Amish mother Ruth Miller told police after her 4-year-old son was found dead in a lake. This morning, we'll show you the shocking body camera footage. Plus, we've seen it before, the fell on a knife defense. Teenager Colin Griffith used it and was acquitted of killing his mom earlier this year. So will it work for defendant Samantha Krebs in the kiss and kill murder trial? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We got a great show planned for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Sometimes there are no words. I felt speechless and sick when I saw the video of 23-year-old Irina Zarutska being attacked on that commuter train in Charlotte. It was like something out of a nightmare. Ruthless, senseless, barbaric, and inhumane. This beautiful young lady comes to our country from Ukraine for her safety and then is violently killed in an unprovoked attack. The man who police say murdered her is a violent felon with a lengthy arrest record who was also homeless and suffering from schizophrenia. How tragic for Irina Zarutska that she randomly sits near this guy. She would have had no way of knowing about his criminal past or his present mental health problems. Irina Zarutska deserved far better. She should be alive and thriving today. Instead, her family has to bury her. Let's hope that her attacker won't be able to harm anyone ever again. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
And I want to be clear here, it is not your opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific and medical certainty that this case is a homicide. Am I right?
Correct. I'm not giving an opinion on what the manner of death is.
In Wisconsin, we've got the state expected to rest its case today in the kiss and kill murder trial for Samantha Krebs. That's going to begin at 9 a.m. Eastern time. There is a 30-minute court order delay on this one, so we'll take you in there as soon as the judge allows us to. In Georgia, there is a motions hearing for defendant Robert Long expected to happen at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. This is the guy who's accused of the spa shooting murder spree. So we're going to be following that case for you. And in Florida, we've got jury selection underway in the federal trial of the man who's charged with trying to assassinate President Donald Trump at his West Palm Beach Country Club last year. Defendant Ryan Routh is representing himself. Opening statements are expected to happen on Thursday. Right now, let's turn to your top story this morning. The question we're asking, how about Harvey? His wife, Donna, is awaiting sentencing after being convicted in the murder for hire plot of Dan Markell. But will more Adelsons face charges? This morning, we want to dig a little deeper into the evidence that points at Harvey. This morning, we've decided to focus on 3 big pieces of evidence. So here we go. During Donna's trial, we found out that Harvey Adelson called hitman Sigfredo Garcia.
Was a phone number that was present here in Tallahassee around the Premier Health and Fitness that was also in the call detail records for one of the subjects of the investigation.
And was that subject Harvey Adelson?
It was, yes. But this is just one incoming phone call from that 786 number. And again, that was on July 1st of 2014 at 5:20 p.m.
Who did the 786 number belong to?
So the 786 number belonged to Sigfredo Garcia.
And there's another key piece of evidence. Let's talk about all the things that went to convicted felon Catherine McBanawa. Yeah, she was driving a Lexus that once belonged to Harvey. Not to mention all the checks that were written to her from Harvey's family dental practice account. And of course, let's remember that Harvey was at the airport with his lovely wife, Donna, about to board that flight with her to Vietnam. A one-way ticket for both of them when she got arrested.
You're making a mistake. No mistake. It's two mistakes. Can you take it off, please, Donna? I don't want to hurt you. Please.
Just a minute. It's getting. Listen to me.
Yeah. I'll call.
Yeah. Uber. Go home.
I will.
So how much did Harvey really know, and is he going to be charged next? Let's tackle these questions with two outstanding lawyers, both of them former prosecutors, Melba Pearson and Randolph Rice, on the show with us. Good morning to you both. Randolph, I want to start with you and the fact that Harvey was having phone calls with this member of the Latin Kings gang. You headed up the gang unit in your former office when you were a prosecutor. Your thoughts on these calls, please.
Never good to call gang members, particularly when your wife, your son, maybe your daughter is involved in setting up a hit with said gang member. So it doesn't look good for Harvey. Now, will Harvey play the Uncle Leo from Seinfeld and say, I'm confused, I have no idea what's going on here? And that may be his defense if he ultimately gets charged.
It really might be. Randolph, thanks. Melba, let me go to you on what Catherine McBanawa received. We know lots of checks were written from his dental practice account, and she's got his car. What does that tell you?
Yeah, good morning, Julie and Randolph. And that's not a good look. That's not a good look at all. The reality is there's no reasonable explanation other than criminal activity as to why Harvey would be giving all of these gifts to Catherine. I mean, there's no allegation as far as we know that they were having an affair. Clearly, they're not related. It's not like she performed other services for him to the best of our knowledge. So with all of that being in play, it really does leave the impression that this was compensation for setting up the hit on Dan Merkel. So, and again, with him fleeing, and I know we're going to talk about this, but with him fleeing with his wife or attempting to flee with his wife, again, that points to consciousness of guilt. So none of this is a good look for him at all.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of compensation, Melba, one of my favorite moments, and this was in Charlie's trial that we learned this, but people can't stop talking about it personally. I think it was really illuminating evidence when Catherine McBanawa testified about the money drop. And she said that the Adelsons came over with that literally laundered money. Let's take a look back at that moment.
I believe his parents or his mom might have washed the money.
You mean like physically wash the money?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you think his mom did it?
Because he was always adamant about telling me he didn't have any money in his house. And he told me that his parents had just stopped by right before I got there. So all of a sudden he had money to put in the trunk of my car.
Okay, and notice how she said the parents came by, both Donna and Harvey. Randolph, thoughts on that?
Again, not good. I mean, he certainly can't turn a blind eye to all these things. How does he not see her? Let's say she actually is washing money. How does he not say, like, why is all this wet cash laying around the house? You know, that's the questions that you would probably ask your wife, and ultimately you should know. And then maybe you have some involvement, which then ties you into this actual plot to kill Dan Markel.
Right. I mean, Harvey was the earner, right? You know, Donna's not working. She's working for him. I mean, you could say, oh, maybe he's not looking at the books very carefully. Maybe wouldn't notice a couple $1,000s go missing, but I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars, lots of checks written to this woman. We'll just let the evidence speak for itself, right? Because we've got more things to go through here. Let's talk about Harvey at the airport with Donna. So he's got a ticket too. You know, Melba, at this lovely airport that you fly out of all the time because you're in the Miami area where you practice. So he's there too. He's also got the one-way ticket too. His plan was to go with her. Tell me, we know this was great evidence against Donna in her trial. If Harvey's charged, might it be great evidence against him too?
Absolutely, because again, Julie, it comes back to that consciousness of guilt. Why are you fleeing to a country with no extradition, basically after the murder, after your co-conspirators are getting arrested and all of that? So there's no, it's not like you guys decided, oh, let's go to vacation in Vietnam, right? This wasn't a pre-planned trip or something along those lines. It very much looked like they were cutting and running. So he can't say that he doesn't know why they were getting on the plane. Like, clearly there was a discussion and there was a plan to buy a one-way ticket, not come back, and avoid prosecution. So to me, I think that's going to be great evidence if and when he's charged.
Yes. Let's also talk about another piece of evidence against Harvey pertaining to the big birthday gift. Harvey was turning 70 at the time that summer, and we know there was evidence in Donna's trial and in Charlie's trial alluding to the murder being his big birthday gift. Let's go back to Charlie on the stand.
Was paella the big birthday gift?
Yeah, I paid for the catering for the whole party.
Then 3 months later, on June 8th, just after midnight, you text her, quote, still working on Dad's birthday present. Was that in reference to the paella guy?
Possibly, or possibly what I was also getting was a present. I mean, it's been 10 years, so I don't know exactly what I got him 10 years ago on his birthday.
And then at 1 a.m., I'm sorry, you weren't done?
No, or what I was thinking about getting him.
And then at 1 a.m., Mom texts you back, I know you'll, and I think she was in Israel, so that may account for the time, but she texts you, quote, I know you'll come through for me.
So the word paella was supposedly code word, you know, for this homicide that was supposedly the big gift that Harvey was getting. How disgusting is that, if that's true? Randolph, your thoughts on how this came up in both Charlie's trial and then again in Donna's trial, that Harvey may have been very pleased to receive a nice gift on his 70th birthday.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a interesting fact, and the state leaned into it very hard during both trials. My question to this case would be, does Harvey know about this aspect of it, or is this just code between Donna and Charlie? And at the end of the day, I think they really got to follow the money. That's what they have to follow to figure out what Harvey's involvement was, because the money ultimately is in control of Harvey, I believe, and that's what's going to connect him to this whole thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Randolph. So let's talk about the ultimate question. Do you think Harvey will be charged? I would love to ask you both that. Melba, your thoughts, please.
I think he will be, because, again, the prosecution has been chipping at each family member in terms of their involvement. And basically, he's one of the last, well, him and Wendy are two of the last missing pieces to the ultimate justice for Dan Markel. So I think that he's going to be charged. I think that there's more evidence against him than there is against Wendy, and there's more of a direct connection between him and this case and this homicide. So I believe he's going to be charged. And I think he's also going to be charged probably with conspiracy to commit murder or something along those lines.
I'm in agreement with you, Melba. Randolph, would love to get your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, I think this was actually a strategic move by the state and the prosecutors not to charge him yet, because here's why. I think that they want to see how he reacts to Donna's conviction. Jail calls, in meetings with Donna, conversations between maybe Wendy or even Charlie. Those are conversations that maybe he says something that implicates him, or at least provides more evidence against him in the state's future case.
That's a really good point. Randolph, thank you. We'll leave it there. Great discussion with you both, as always. Melba and Randolph are coming with us. Do the same at home, please. You can get some more coffee. We got a great show coming up. Here's what's next.
I threw him in the lake, and I gave him to God. And people are going to tell me I am crazy, but he is real.
And we got a bizarre story out of Ohio for you. An Amish mother's accused of killing her 4-year-old son by drowning him in a lake. And stunt video popping up online of the Kentucky cheerleader, rather, who's accused of hiding her dead infant. So we're asking, did those stunts endanger her unborn baby?
The Court TV podcast will return.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brandon Marshall on behalf of call number 80, Lake and Snow.
Dates are, see this, Friday the 5th, 12th, the 19th, or 26th, and one wait time.
26th and one wait time, sir.
Now for what's trending in true crime, the University of Kentucky cheerleader at the center of an infant death investigation performed stunts only months before giving birth. This photo is from USA Cheer in one of their competitions, and there you can see Lakin Snelling at the top of the formation, and it certainly looks like she's got a baby bump. Let's watch when she catches another cheerleader. See it again there. Now, it's hard to tell just how far along she may be, but certainly seems like it could be a few months. Now, police were called to Snelling's home when a deceased infant was found in a trash bag inside of her closet. Snelling was then taken into custody and appeared in court with her family by her side. The autopsy on the male infant was inconclusive, and the coroner's office says that more microscopic analysis will be needed to make a determination on how the baby died. Now, Snelling is out on bond and has reportedly dropped out of college. The New York Post is reporting that an ex-boyfriend of hers has given a DNA sample to see if he was the father. So this morning we're asking, did the cheerleading stunts endanger her unborn baby? Let's bring in Dr. Priya Banerjee and attorney Randolph Rice to talk about this. Dr. Priya, let me go to you, please. You just saw that video, and knowing how involved stunting is with jumping, catching, grabbing, flipping, would you think that this would have been a dangerous thing to do in a pregnancy?
So it's difficult to say, but she's very active before she was pregnant. And so I think that is usually what doctors say, don't start anything new. I think she probably has, a significant amount of muscle and endurance to do this, such that I think the baby's in fluid and probably tumbling around should be okay. I'm curious if they'll use that in her defense, though, and saying, even if doctors said it was okay, maybe it could have endangered the baby. She clearly looks pregnant. She's usually so fit. If you see her side profile in the picture you're showing, you can see she's very fit, flat stomach, right under that number 15, and her uniform fits differently in the stunt video. Given that she has tight stomach muscles, it's hard to say how far along she is physically just looking at her.
Sure. Dr. Priya, let's watch this again. This is from USA Cheer in one of their competitions, doing the stunting, and here she's catching and then holding. And look where that other cheerleader's head is, right above what appears to be her baby bump. So no doubt she is fit, no doubt. I mean, you don't make a college cheerleading squad without being athletic and fit and strong. Stunting is hard. I have to say, Dr. Priya, I'm very surprised at your answer a moment ago. And for anybody who may think like me, I want to just play devil's advocate here. I did do stunting in college and college cheerleading, and I remember I would have bruises all the time. And when you're catching and being caught, I mean, you're being grabbed on every part of your body, really. I mean, it is really, really, I to this day will say I think it's dangerous. I have a bad injury. I still suffer from college stunting, and so I wonder with the physical contact, sure, she's fit and might have stamina to run or to do some of the things that a pregnant person who's done it before can continue doing. What about the danger of other, arms hitting her, legs hitting her, falling, things like that with the baby?
Sure. I just don't know. I mean, you have more experience than I have not as athletic as you or this young lady, such that I think I was just commenting on that one video. Falling would be terrifying. You know, I think falling from a height is a high impact. So, you know, maybe not knowing the technicalities of the sport, you know, I've seen videos of CrossFitting and, you know, moms that run. I have plenty of colleagues that run during pregnancy. But obviously, if there's a hard force on the belly, you know, from a fall or hard impact, that's obviously much more dangerous. I think the way she's bracing herself in this particular video, and the other cheerleader's head sort of lands there, but remember the belly's tight and there's a lot of fluid to buffer the baby. You know, that's why I was saying it appeared to be safe. Anything where she's tumbling onto a hard surface or falling sounds terrifying.
Right, right. So I think there is an important distinction, right? Maybe she could do the exercises that cheerleaders do. I know we used to have to run the stairs. We did plyometric exercises with the football players in the off season. You know, that might be just fine for somebody who's incredibly fit. But like you said, a fall or, you know, the extending of the stomach, tumbling when you're going in a backward motion, I can't imagine that happening pregnant.
And not to take time from the other guests, but the other thing is you have to remember hormones make all your ligaments and joints more stretchy.
Oh, that's
right,
interesting.
to accommodate that baby's.
Yeah.
So you're going to be looser.
Right. That's
and
interesting.
more, you know, maybe more prone to instability.
Dr. Priya, thank you. Randolph, what I want to ask you is the legal aspect, because I was thinking about how college athletics, there will be a team doctor, somebody that presumably would have to have physicals done with all of these athletes and give them clearance to cheer. I remember getting hurt, having to get clearance from the doctor to go back onto the field and start doing more stunting and all the things. Do you think there's any liability, Randolph? I know you do civil practice as well. For everybody who may not know that about you, you have a civil practice too, in addition to doing criminal work. Do you think there's liability for the university?
You know, Julie, that's a great question, and I think that may be a little far of a reach for the university to be liable. But I do agree with you on the part about how did the university not catch this with the trainers? I was a college athlete just like you, and I was in the training room every week getting something done, and these trainers were always noticing if I had something in my body that was different, or, you know, muscle, whatever it may be. So I hear what you're saying. I don't know that necessarily that they're going to be held on the hook for being liable for this, though.
Sure, especially with not knowing the cause of death, right? You know, it could have happened at her, you know, her home. Who knows? We're still waiting. But the liability, yeah, and thank you for that, Randolph, because you're right. There's lots of eyes. You made a great point. Trainers, people around you. What about teammates? You would think somebody would have noticed this. At this point, Randolph, do you think it's best for her, now put your criminal defense hat on, not the civil hat, criminal defense hat. Should she be cooperating with investigators at this point, if this was just a death that occurred through no fault or intention of her own?
And Julie, that is a great point. I think the train may have left the station on that one. And the reason being is that most of the things that she's charged with are not what she did prior to the baby being born or dead. It's what she did after, which is the disposal of a baby or the hiding of the baby. And so that would concern me as a defense attorney as to her getting in a room and trying to talk to either investigators or prosecutors, because they could theoretically use that against her, unless it was under a proffer session where that information was protected.
Really appreciate it. Great insight from you both. Randolph Rice, Dr. Priya Banerjee, thank you so much. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up on Opening Statements.
I need to know where your husband's at.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
He's in a fish.
Yes.
There's no fish large enough on an atwell to swallow your husband.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
An Amish mother of 4 is accused of killing her 4-year-old son. She pleads not guilty by reason of insanity. We've got a psychologist and an investigator joining us live next. Plus, will the defense's fell on a knife theory work in the kiss and kill murder trial?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. Now we shine our spotlight on a terrible case out of Ohio. A defendant named Ruth Miller, an Amish mother, is accused of killing her 4-year-old son. She appeared in Ohio in court on Monday, where she pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So why would she kill her child? Well, Miller claims she, quote, gave her son to God.
I gave him to God today.
You gave him to God?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I threw him in the lake, and I gave him to God. And people are going to tell me I am crazy, but he is real, and he loves you. He really does love you. He loves you. And I doubted him. I doubted him so many times, but I am to tell you he is coming soon. He is coming very soon. Prepare your hearts. The end is close. And I'm for sure supposed to tell you that he does love you.
And she better be prepared to be locked up. So what happened to her husband? Well, he ended up in the lake, too.
Ma'am, can you explain to me what happened? Who did you throw in the water?
I gave my son to God.
Your son?
Yes.
Where's your husband?
He went for a walk this morning.
And you haven't seen him
He
since?
didn't ever come back. And we went to the boat, and his clothes were there. And God told me he's in the lake, and a fish swallowed him. And you're actually supposed to go look for him in the bottom of the lake. And you will find the fish, and you will find my husband.
I need to know where your husband's at.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
He's in a fish.
Yes.
There's no fish large enough on an atwood to swallow your husband.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
Now, her husband, police say, does not appear to be a victim of foul play. She's facing charges of aggravated murder, felonious assault in her son's death. She's also charged with endangering her child and domestic violence for allegedly driving a golf cart into the lake with her 15-year-old daughter and twin 18-year-old sons on board. There's going to be a bond hearing on September 25th. The Old Order Amish Church tells Scripps News that the events that unfolded at the lake do not reflect their teachings or their beliefs, but were instead a result of mental illness. My goodness, let's talk about this case. Let's bring in psychotherapist Dr. Janie Lacey and private investigator Manuel Gomez of Black Ops Private Investigators. Good morning to you both. Such an awful case. Let's start with the mental health aspect of this. Dr. Janie, you heard right out of the gate, whomever's representing her guided her, obviously, with the plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Tell us what you're thinking here.
You know, what I'm thinking, Julie, is there is definitely some type of mental health factors, but what we'll see, especially in religious communities, is sometimes they're covered up by normative religious expression, and the delusional thinking is considered normative in the sense that we're hearing that God told her this, or that he's in the lake. So I would be looking at a couple of things from a mental health perspective, looking at potential psychosis. Was there major depressive disorder with these psychotic features? You know, and perhaps there's some underlining psychiatric conditions that were exacerbated by her cultural isolation in the Amish community, because we know historically the Amish community's relationship with mental health services is pretty much non-existent because of this religious framework for understanding, especially tragedies and death, which is a potential barrier for a lot of the individuals that live in these communities because of the lack of mental health intervention. So then they will rely on their religious framework to explain potential delusions and other psychotic features, Julie. So those are some of my thoughts.
It's very interesting what you're sharing, Dr. Janie, and interesting your last point, how we see the church already distancing themselves from this and making it clear this is not the beliefs that they preach or subscribe to. This is her mental illness that appears to be at play here. I have a clip I want to play for you both. This is a paramedic praying with her. This is body camera footage of it. Take a look.
God, please show this woman that it is true what I'm telling you. People are doubting. They are getting harder from me to stay strong. Please show her that it is true what I'm telling you. that there is a fish in the bottom of the lake. Please never take me to sit with my children under the tree that you have created. Please, Lord.
So this is something you don't see every day. The paramedic kneeling with her, praying with her. Manuel, what do you think of that?
Well, I'm glad you showed that, Julie, because I got to say, this case is the prime example of professionalism to the highest standard. The way the paramedics treated her, the way the cops acted. I have never witnessed such professionalism in any police department nationwide in all my years. And I have to say, kudos to the Sheriff's Department in Ohio. But I do understand why she killed, in some aspects, her son, because the Amish study the Old Testament. There is a section in the Old Testament where Abraham offers his son to God and actually puts him on a brush of burning wood. And then as he's about to die, God orders him to take him off. Now, she perverted this because of her psychological issues, but I do believe that was one of the factors, the religious points of view, that caused her to do that. But the other thing is, I'm a little disturbed is how they don't charge her with the murder of her husband, because I don't believe he just drowned, because the Amish are very, very cult-like, and she most likely took her children with her husband and her when they were performing their religious rituals. And the fact that she knew exactly that he was in the bottom of that river, I'm sorry, I believe she had some involvement.
Interesting you say that, Manuel. Dovetailing off of what you said, the sheriff said that her husband went back to the lake alone, by himself, likely drowned, is the sheriff's comment, after he was disappointed in his performance of those spiritual tasks. Apparently, they had these spiritual tasks that they were carrying out. Tell me what you would be looking at, Manuel, as an investigator, if you're thinking this wasn't an accidental drowning, or drowning by suicide. If you're thinking this was homicide, how do you get there as an investigator? What do you look at with the dad?
Well, I would have been very cautious as making a statement as they did, because one, in this case and in this aspect, you need an autopsy. His head needs to be examined to see if he was hit, or his toxicology needs to be examined to see if he was maybe given some type of poison. But the fact is that she knew exactly where he was, and he was in the bottom of that river. If his sons and daughters were there practicing their religious rituals together, then one of them would have called for help. But I've been to Coshocton, Ohio on a missing child case and tried to have interviewed the Amish. And let me tell you, you got a better chance of winning Powerball than one of them actually speaking to you.
You're right. You're right, my friend. Lots of good food there in Amish country. You know, I've been there to that area many times before. I've been to Atwood Lake. It's lovely. Yeah, good pies there. But yeah, in terms of it's a community. Yeah, go ahead, Manuel. What's that?
I bought 14 pies.
I bet you did. Took them all back to New York, put them in the freezer. That's so funny. Oh, man, well, you need to have those moments to laugh with. This is so sad and awful. You know, I appreciate we can have a moment of levity on the show. Dr. Janey, I want to ask you about, and this is so tough because we know that how we wish you could personally evaluate this woman, but you haven't, so we're asking you to kind of analyze from afar. I want to give you a quote. The sheriff here said that the most bizarre act that he heard of was that this woman said that God told her to allow herself to be swallowed up by a fish. But somehow she survived, and the sheriff was kind of amazed at that. I think many of us are. What do those words tell you, that she's saying she heard God tell her to get swallowed up by a fish?
Well, what that tells me, Julian, sometimes there's this intersection because of the religious framework, but some type of delusion or some type of possible auditorial hallucinations, or what we would call command delusions. And in the religious context, sometimes that when there is a baseline of some type of potential mental health or psychotic disorder, that with the religious framework on top of that, sometimes people will say that they believe this is God's voice voice, or they will refer back to their religious framework for those possible auditorial hallucinations, or what we would call command delusions, where someone is hearing a voice tell them to do something in that standpoint. So, there would be a couple of things from a clinical assessment perspective is that we would have to look at, and as my colleague on the panel mentioned, it's difficult when you're looking at certain communities because you can't get in there and get some of the previous history, good timeline of behavioral changes because of the intersection or any stressors that are happening, or even neurological evaluations and these types of things that we would need to do. So that would be my guess at afar, that there was some level of psychiatric history that was missed, obviously, because of the community and the framework of her religion.
Dr. Janie Lacey, investigator Manuel Gomez, great insight from you both, as always. Awful, awful case. Our heart goes out to those surviving children. Hopefully they're going to get the help that they need as they grieve the loss of their younger brother and their father. We'll hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on opening statements. We're talking the fell on a knife theory. Yeah, we saw it once before. A case here on Court TV. You remember the case I'm talking about, Courties, and now we're seeing it all over again. Yeah, remember Colin Griffith? He used that theory. He was acquitted. Is the same thing going to happen for Samantha Krebs? That's next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about what's tipping the scales in the kiss and kill murder trial. The defense is claiming that victim Joey Carnot fell on the knife. We've heard that defense before, haven't we, my friends? We heard it in the case of Florida teen Colin Griffith. Remember, he walked. Samantha Krebs, she's accused of stabbing her fiancé to death inside of their Appleton, Wisconsin apartment in July of 2024. She called her friend John Pfeffer to come over to the apartment, and he testified that Krebs told him what to say to police.
She just said that, tell the cops Joey stabbed himself.
Did she say anything about, what are we supposed to say, he fell on a knife?
Yes. Samantha's saying, what should I say, he fell on a knife?
And then what did you hear after that? Like, was it you who said, I don't know?
Yes.
Now, on Monday, here's what Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Doug Kelly testified to about Carnot's cause and manner of death.
What did you determine the cause of death to be?
A stab wound to the chest.
So in this particular situation, are you able to determine whether or not it was self-inflicted or not self-inflicted?
No, from my involvement in this case, I can tell you the cause of death, but I am not able to tell you the manner of death.
Wow. So he's not opining on manner, so we don't know if it was homicide. Okay, prosecutors can still prove it. I don't want you to think that his testimony tanks the case. It doesn't. It just makes it more difficult for these prosecutors. Now, you might remember this defendant, 17-year-old Colin Griffith. Yeah, he's out walking the streets. He was tried for the murder of his mother. We aired that trial on Court TV. He told police she fell on the knife, even though the medical examiner testified that that was impossible. He was still acquitted. So, will the victim fell on the knife defense work again in this case? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in Randolph Rice and Melba Pearson. Melba, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm still shocked that Colin Griffith actually got away with it, but separate discussion.
Me too. Me too.
Like, you killed your dad 2 years ago, and then you kill your mom, and all of a sudden both of those were self-defense. Something doesn't smell right there. But be that as it may, in this case, I don't think it's going to work, because what was different in the Colin Griffin case is that the mother had previously tried to commit suicide. And in this instant case, he apparently had one instance, the victim had one instance where he was suicidal, but it seemed to be as part of some sort of paranoia or psychosis as a result of drug use, not that he was actually suicidal and threatening to commit suicide on a regular basis. So since there isn't that history, I think it's more likely that the prosecution can prevail here. But again, as you mentioned earlier, Julie, it's a real problem that the medical examiner can't determine the cause of death. That is going to be a tough one for them to overcome.
All right, Melba, and thank you for that important distinction that you just made. Let's do a little memory refresher for all of us. We've got Colin Griffith's 911 call. Let's listen.
What caused the bleeding? She got real tight and we don't give you the knife and she fell on it. Where is the knife right now? And who did she get in a fight with? We gave out and we got real tight for a long time and then we got on top of me and fell on it.
So that was his story. What about Ms. Krebs' story? At least what we've heard the pieces of it so far. She hasn't testified yet. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. Randolph, what do you think, please?
Well, I think Melba makes really a great summary of the points that distinguish these two cases. You know, the Colin Griffin case really is between Colin and his mother. You know, you obviously got the 911 call. You got the statements outside the house. A little different here in the Samantha Krebs case because she's got some other players involved. She's got some other people who she's talking to after the fact. We think there's going to be obviously this green binder that's going to have information in it. And then I think she's also possibly making some statements while she's in jail that are going to be a little different or contradicting what this narrative of he did it to himself is going to be. So I think there's some distinguishing factors that make it harder for her to get a not guilty.
Yeah, great points, Randolph. Let's take a listen to more of what the medical examiner said in Krebs' case about not being able to arrive at a manner of death.
And I want to be clear here. It is not your opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific and medical certainty that this case is a homicide. Am I right?
Correct. I'm not giving an opinion on what the manner of death is.
Ooh, so that was from the recross. So there was the cross first, then the recross. Melba, you know, for the defense team, this is advantageous, is it not, when you have an ME like this guy who, for whatever reason, you know, can't form that opinion that the state would like him to?
Of course. I mean, defense counsel in this case is going to use this as their main pillar of their case, being like, listen, you have somebody with all of this training who has looked at thousands and thousands of these types of cases and cannot determine that this was a homicide. So if I was a defense counsel, I'd be like, prosecution had no business bringing charges in this case because their own expert can't even say that it's a homicide. And there is a compelling statement from the defendant saying that, you know, listen, this person fell on the knife and it is what it is. So I think the defense has something to work with here. That does not mean I think they will prevail, but they have something to work with.
Yes, well said, Melba, well said. It's a fly in the ointment if you're the state on this one and have to, you know, get that fly out somehow and clear things up for this jury. Melba Pearson, we have to let you go. Thank you so much for the great insight and analysis. Guess what? We get a double dose of Randolph today. He's coming with us for Court TV Live. You do the same at home, please. You can get some more coffee if you want. That's all for opening statements. If you like the episode, tell your friends about it, share the episode. We pop them up there on courttv.com every day for you. Just click on the Shows tab. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on courttv.com.